Greetings from ISEP Study Abroad headquarters. It's time for ISEP Live. Thanks so much for being with us today. We're really excited to have you here to talk about some of our programs in the UK. Like I said, we have a lot of exciting things to cover today, so let's go ahead and give you an idea of what we'll be talking through. We have 3 programs to cover, but before we do that, we'll start by talking through ISEP. What is ISEP? How do our programs work? What are your program options? From there, we'll be spending some time to talk about the University of Roehampton. From there, we move to Edinburgh and Napier University, and we finish off talking about the University of Ulster. So again, we have some really exciting programs to talk to you about today, and we're so glad you're here with us. The beauty of ISEP Live is that it's a great space for you to ask questions about these programs and get the answers you're looking for. So there are a couple of different ways that you can ask us questions. The first is right on the right side of your screen. You'll see the question and answer panel. As we go along, if you have questions for us, feel free to type them in there. The other option for you is to utilize social media. We're all across social media, but definitely today we encourage you to utilize Twitter using the hashtag ISEPLive, and from there we'll be following your questions as we go. So if you have questions for us, 2 different places to ask them, but it's a great time to do that. If you're watching this show as a recording after the fact, you can also send us questions. We'll follow that hashtag ISEPLive regularly. So if you have questions about any of the programs that we talk about today, feel free to ask them there. So before we get into the programs, like I said, we want to talk you through ISEP. ISEP is a network made up of over 300 universities worldwide. And with these universities, we facilitate 2 types of programs. And we'll be touching on both of these today. The first is an ISEP exchange. On ISEP Exchange, you pay your tuition, housing, and meals directly back to your home university. Another student from another country is paying those same fees back to their home university, and it's a one-to-one trade-off. So with that program, that's kind of how the payment process works. But the thing to remember with exchange programs, especially with the programs that we'll be discussing today, is exchange can be competitive. So we do have another program type for you to facilitate that. It's ISEP Direct. With ISEP Direct, you pay your program fees, which include different things depending on your program, directly to ISEP, and we facilitate the logistics for you from there. So like I said, we'll be talking about those 2 programs as we go today, but it's good to keep in mind that those are the 2 different program types. Without any further ado, let's get into the exciting programs that we have to talk about today. We have with us today our program officer for the United Kingdom, Carrie, to discuss 3 really exciting programs with us. Thanks for being here, Carrie.
Sure.
Let's get started.
Great. Happy to be here. We're going to start by talking about the University of Roehampton. After I give a little overview of some interesting things about Roehampton and the academics, we're going to hear from an alum who went on our summer program last summer to the university in London. So just some interesting things about Roehampton. I'm sure everyone knows about London, but Roehampton is really the only traditional campus type university in London, so they're going to have that green space, quads and buildings all on one location that you're not going to find in London. I have a really soft spot for London because I studied abroad there myself, and I was able to visit Roehampton last summer and actually see the space, see the university, and I loved it. I would go there myself if I had the chance, but it's time for you guys to do that. So another thing about Roehampton is that it's about 6 miles from central London. It's pretty easy to get to central London. You take a bus, you take the tube, and you get there. It took me about 45 minutes to get there from central London. It's very quick. If you know anything about or have heard of Wimbledon, the tennis tournament, it's actually very close by to Wimbledon. So it's within London in a quick public transportation ride into the center of the city. Another interesting thing about the University of Roehampton is how international it is. Roehampton has students who come from over 140 universities to make up their campus. I think it's it's very reflective of London as a whole in terms of being an international city. So that's the population that you'll be studying with when you study abroad at the University of Roehampton. To move on into more on the academics. Things that you can study while you're at Roehampton. So during the semester and the full year, there's a wide variety of things that you can study at Roehampton. We have students who go there for dance, for theater, and students who go there for the hard sciences, so stuff like exercise science and biology. So there's kind of a wide variety that you can choose from. And a really great thing that Roehampton provides for study abroad students is that they have a specific study abroad module guide. So you'll be able, when you're applying to Roehampton, see exactly which classes are available to you to apply to study while you're there. So that's good if you need to get something pre-approved before you go. And then the last really exciting thing about Roehampton that I'm going to cover today is the London Studies program that they have. This is a semester and a full year option, and it's specific for study abroad students. This London Studies program really takes advantage of being in London, and students will be able to go into the city for their classes, take advantage of museums and theater productions, and really take advantage of that. And drawing on that, there's also the summer program, which follows largely the same model in terms of using London as your classroom. And Carol will be able to give you a little bit better of a view of what the summer program looks like. So those are two really exciting options. And on direct, just before I go over the deadlines, but on direct, the London Studies program is included in the fees. It's really a good option for direct students. So to move on to the fees and deadlines for Roehampton. So for the fall and the full year, exchange has already closed because we've passed that priority deadline, but the direct option is still available. So that deadline for the fall and the full year is May 1st. So send your applications in. We can still get you in for next fall. And then if you're thinking about applying for the spring, it's going to be September 1st is going to be the good deadline for you to apply for exchange. And for the summer, the deadline is May 1st, I believe. April 1st, actually. So a month earlier. So if you're thinking about going for the summer, get your application in before April 1st.
Okay, thanks so much, Carrie.
Sure.
We have, like Carrie mentioned, Kara with us. Let's get Kara on the screen. Are you with us, Kara?
I'm here.
Great, thanks so much for being with us today.
No problem.
Kara, you are a student. Your home university is Northwestern University in Louisiana. And when were you in Roehampton?
I went to Roehampton this past summer, I think the end of June and all of July.
Great. Well, you're fresh out of the program, so I'm sure you'll be excited to answer our questions and get some perspective on it. To start off, if you could describe your ISEP experience in one word or phrase, what would it be?
Just one word, it would be incredible. It's the most amazing summer that I've ever had in my life. It was really incredible.
Yeah, well, I want to hear more. What was the housing situation like? Kind of what did that look like on campus?
I thought the housing was really neat because the way that they're set up, they're kind of tiny apartments. So you have your room and you've got a really big desk and a bed and a wardrobe and a sink in your own room, and then the hallways kind of varied in sizes, but there were at least 6 rooms per hallway, and you have a shared kitchen area. So if you wanted to work on your schoolwork or be quiet or be alone, you had that little area. But to eat, you were kind of forced to socialize with everyone else in your hall. So you got to be really good friends with them. And I still talk to those kids. It was really fun.
Yeah, wow. Well, what would you say a typical day was like at Roehampton?
For my class, I took art in London museums. And that started out with 5 days a week. We did class from 9, I think. I could be wrong. I'm getting a little fuzzy on the time. It was earlier in the morning than I prefer to go to class, but it was 9 to about 1. And then after class, you had until as late as you wanted to stay up to go into the city and experience everything and get food. And it was a lot of fun.
Well, it sounds like you had a great experience, and we appreciate you taking some time to share it with us today. Are you going to be around for just a little bit? Can you stay on the line in case any of our...
I can stay.
Great. And again, if you do have questions, feel free to send them in now. We'll get to all those at the end, again, using that question and answer toolbar, or you can use Twitter with hashtag ISEPLive. So thanks again, Kara, and she'll stay on the line if you do have questions for her. But let's move on and talk about our next program with Carrie.
Yeah, let's do that. So the next program that we're going to be highlighting is Edinburgh Napier University. So that's in Scotland, in the city of Edinburgh. To go over just a few fun facts about the city that can get you excited about studying in Scotland. First of all, the city is, in the entire city, both the Old Town and the New Town, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So that means that the city has been recognized internationally as having cultural and historical significance to the world. So that's pretty exciting. The two sides of town are completely different, but they're smashed together. Our alum is going to be able to talk about that more than I can, I think. But we've got the Old Town, which is medieval, and everything that you think about old city Europe, with the sprawling streets and the cobblestones, and kind of the centerpiece is Edinburgh Castle at the top of the hill. And then we have the New Town, which is what you think when you think of like classical Victorian England or Britain. So it's got the row houses and the green squares in the middle, and they're all part of the same city. It's quite beautiful. Another interesting thing about Edinburgh is that it's known as the festival city. It brings in many, many, many festivals throughout the whole year. So that's going to be, theater and music and dance. You're never going to run out of things to do when you're in Edinburgh. And their most famous festival is the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which brings in over 20,000 amateur performers to do, their craft in front of everybody. It's really fun. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight, which is just kind of a fun fact, but also if you're interested in the outdoors, is that Edinburgh is situated around an extinct volcano system. So it's one thing that you can do on the weekends, which is really fun, is hike up Arthur's Seat, which I was able to do last summer. It's quite the hike, but it's now just a big hill in the middle of the city that overlooks the entire city, but it's an extinct volcano actually. Actually Edinburgh Castle is also part of that same system that's situated on top of part of that same volcanic system. So that's kind of a fun fact about Edinburgh. So now moving on to academics, the reason why you're going to actually attend Edinburgh Napier University. One thing that I really wanted to highlight about Napier is that it's a great fit for science and business majors. Our alum today actually did engineering while he was there, which is, sometimes hard for study abroad students to find the right fit for them. But Napier is a really great fit for students who are looking to do the sciences. They do have other fields of study, but the sciences are a strong point for Napier. Another thing for students to consider is they have a great program in the communication arts, which focuses on journalism, design, music, photography, and film. This is a very competitive portion of the university, so if you're interested in that, a lot of students are drawn to this. You're going to have junior level standing, submit a portfolio, and really only focus on those subjects while you're there. So you're not going to be able to mix and match across courses. But that being said, to my third point that I really wanted to highlight is that Napier is a really good university to mix and match across courses, except for those last ones that I just mentioned. You're able to take classes in different fields of study as necessary, whereas other universities, it might be a little bit harder to do so. But Napier is a good place to kind of check off some gen eds or something that you need to do for your degree program. So just moving on to some deadlines and fees. So the deadlines. So for exchange for the fall and the full year, that's passed already. That's February 15th. But the direct deadline is still open. So they're going to be accepting applications through May 15th. So please go ahead and get those in, and we can get you abroad for the fall. Students who are looking to go abroad next spring, so spring 2016, it's best to get your exchange applications in by September 1st for best consideration. And then the direct fees are here on the page for the fall and full year. And keep in mind that for the 3 direct fees that I'm for all three universities that I'm talking about today. That includes housing, meals, and now starting this year, it's including insurance as well, which is a necessary part of becoming an ISEP student. Is you need to buy the ISEP insurance so that you're medically covered while you're abroad, and so the direct fee actually now includes the insurance as well.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Kay. We have another student presenter with us today to talk about his experience. Nick is a student, home university, University of Vermont. Thanks for being with us, Nick.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Yeah. Well, let's get started and hear about your experience. To start off, we actually have a question from one of our viewers, Morgan. And Morgan's asking about, with Edinburgh, what is the typical housing situation like? So could you tell us about your own experience with housing for your program? What was that like?
Okay, yeah, of course. So my housing, I ended up being in a 5-room flat, as they call it. It's like an apartment. It was the university essentially owned and operated the building, but it is very much a city school. It doesn't have like a consolidated campus, so we were out in the city. It was actually a really incredible location. It was perfect for a lot of reasons. Like, we learned the longer I was there how good the location actually was. We were kind of placed like 5 minutes from city center. We were right on this big excuse me, field called the Meadows, and we had a great view of Arthur's Seat, which Carrie mentioned. It was really, I mean, so it was independent in the sense that it was like apartment style living. So it was not a dorm, but it was, it was provided by the university. I also can do different, but when you that's provided for, it's super convenient, and was actually a great.
I think we're losing on your connection.
I don't know if there's anything else, or if you guys can.
Are you still there, Nick? It looks like we lost Nick for now. So let's see. We'll let him see if he can get reconnected with us, and we'll come back to him. Before we jump to our next program, we have a question from another viewer for Carrie regarding exchange placement. Tiffany is asking about exchange placement, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, sure. So the question is if students who are still looking to go abroad for the fall and the full year and are looking to apply now on exchange, we actually have filled all the exchange space in the UK just because it's so popular to go, English speaking and cultural centers of Europe, really. So all the exchange space is filled for the fall and the full year. So right now, direct is the only option to get abroad for fall 2015 and the full academic year. But it will be open again for spring consideration with the priority deadline being September 1st.
Great, thanks so much. Let's jump back and see if we have Nick back on the line. Let's see. Are you there, Nick? Let's see.
My microphone is muted.
There you go.
It's not muted.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, I don't know. I guess I lost you before.
No problem. Let's jump and talk about your experience with travel. What were you able to see while you were in Scotland? Where did you travel, and what excursions did you take part in?
Yeah. So one of the best parts about being there was the ease of travel to other places as well. I mean, as much as Scotland was awesome and I explored it, I was able to go to a bunch of other places. I made it to Paris, to Croatia, to Greece, Italy twice, and all this was possible because of it's the Edinburgh International Airport was just a bus ride away. It was super easy, cheap flights, and yeah, I mean, I did. When we went to Croatia, me and my friends bought those tickets a few days in advance, and we left that weekend, and it was super cheap and easy. So that that was great, and that opportunity was just kind of possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, am I still coming through clear to you guys, or are we still having issues?
I still hear you loud and clear.
Okay,
Let's
perfect.
get one more question in before we jump to our next program. We want to hear about your experience with ISEP. How do you think it helped you develop professionally?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge step in my professional development. Just studying abroad in general, and the fact that ISEP provided that opportunity for me it's a huge kind of eye opener in what you might want to do and how you just kind of navigate the workplace, or seeing how a different university works and things like that, how faculty operate and how the systems are different, kind of opens your mind to just simply a more worldly view, which is, for me, which I hope is going to be super useful, because I know now I'm kind of interested in maybe working abroad or doing some more, of course, more traveling abroad, but I could end up seeing myself even working abroad. So it kind of opened that door for me, and I'm super grateful for that. I mean, that was stuff like that. That was definitely like the biggest way it affected my professional development.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much again for being with us. And like Kara, if you will be around for just a little bit, we'll have you hang on the line in case we have any other questions for you come through.
All good.
Thank you. Cool. Well, let's jump to our last program that Carrie's going to tell us about. So take it away, Carrie.
Sure. So the last program that we're highlighting today is our program at the University of Ulster in Northern Ireland. It's our only program on the island of Ireland, so it's really unique. It's special to ISEP. So some things to highlight about Ulster. Before I even get started, it's probably pertinent to say and to explain that there are 4 campuses at the University of Ulster that are spread kind of across Northern Ireland. So students who study here are going to be studying and living on one of these campuses, and you'll be placed there based on your academics. And you can request which campus, but ultimately you'll be placed based on where you can get the classes that you need. So some interesting things about Northern Ireland and the university is that the Coleraine campus is only 11 miles away from this very prominent landmark in the entirety of Ireland, actually. It's called the Giant's Causeway. If you see any pictures of Northern Ireland, or you Google it, it's going to be one of the first things that pops up. It's essentially a cliff that goes into the North Sea of Ireland that is made up of, what is it, like 40,000 or so stepping stones. They look like columns, and it's quite striking, the whole view. So I encourage you to look up the Giant's Causeway and kind of get excited about being in Northern Ireland, because it's quite beautiful. Another interesting thing about Northern Ireland is how small it is. People always describe Ireland in general, the entire island, as being so friendly. It feels like family when you're there, and a lot of that has to do with how small the country is. Northern Ireland in particular is about the size of the U.S. state of Maryland. And so even though there are 4 campuses, they're actually quite close when you think about it from the U.S. perspective. Nothing's too far from the capital, from Belfast. And some students who study on the McGee campus are actually within biking distance from the border of the Republic of Ireland. I know that some professors kind of bike to class to teach their lectures and bike back across the border every day. So that's kind of a fun thing. And then another thing to point out is that the University of Ulster is the entirety of Ireland, so including the Republic of Ireland's 2nd largest university. It has 25,000 students. So that means a lot of choices in academics. However, it's not too overwhelming because it is split over the 4 campuses. So you are going to get kind of a closer community feel with the different campuses. So moving into some academics about Ulster. One thing that I really wanted to highlight is a new program that we're really hoping that students will take advantage of, which is the Irish Studies Certificate Program that you can pursue on ISEP Direct, on the Direct program. So this Irish certificate that you would receive, you take different classes within the Irish Studies school while you're there. So you're going to be covering literature, film, language, so you can actually study Irish language. just culture in general. And if you complete a semester's worth of classes within that department, you're going to leave the university not only with credit towards your home university, but also an Irish Studies certificate or advanced certificate, depending on what level of classes that you took while you're there. I already talked about the different campuses. So there's the 4 different campuses that you can live and work at. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight is a new Irish Studies summer program that we're going to be offering this summer. You can stay, it's a 4-week program with an additional optional 5th week. The 5th week is for an additional fee, but it's an immersion week. So you actually immerse yourself in a local Irish community where they speak Irish. Those communities are pretty limited in Ireland now and in Northern Ireland, but that's a pretty unique experience that you get to do. And you end the program with 6 credits. And again, that's in Irish Studies, so it's going to focus on history and film and literature and that kind of thing. So that's a really fun program that's going to be taking place in July. So finally, let's talk about deadlines and fees. So once again, the priority deadline has passed. So if you're looking to go abroad for the fall or the full year at Ulster, then you're going to want to do the direct program for sure. We're still accepting direct applications until May 1st, and that's actually also going to be the deadline for the new summer program, is May 1st as well. In terms of the direct fees, they're here on the screen. We've got the semester fee and the full year fee here. And again, the fees are going to include housing, tuition, and ISEP insurance.
Great. Thanks so much, Carrie. I want to get your perspective on this program and kind of hear from you as the expert. So tell us, first off, what type of ground assistance does ISEP provide for students on a program like this one?
Okay. So with every ISEP program, you're going to have an ISEP coordinator when you get to campus. Usually that's going to be somebody in the international office. It might be somebody in an academic office, but they're a designated ISEP person, so they're your point person. At Ulster, the person's name is Susan Hargan, and if you could put a face on the nicest Irish person, this would be it. She's the sweetest lady who is here to help you with if you have questions about housing, meals, getting your meal stipend, or where to buy groceries, or registering for classes. That's another thing that she'll be helping with. Now with Ulster, because there are the 4 campuses that are kind of spread across the country, there's also a point person on each campus. So while she's not the ISEP coordinator, if you need to get in touch and need immediate assistance, there's somebody on campus for you to get in touch with.
Yeah, and I want to have time to get to some of our viewer questions. I'll ask you one more question about Ulster specifically.
Sure.
Tell us about academics. What are the classes like? How might it be different from an experience that a student's used to?
Okay. Well, when talking about this, I want to preface it with saying that this is applicable to all of our universities across the UK. The academic experience is different than what you're going to find here in the US. It's going to be a lot more lecture style. It's going to be a lot more independent study. They're not going to tell you exactly what to read every week. They might give you a list of books that might be a good thing to read up on for next week, but it's going to be up to you to choose what's relevant and what's of interest to you. So you get to kind of pursue your interests in a very specific way, which is exciting, but definitely a different thing that you need to adjust to once you get there. Another thing to keep in mind, which is different than in the US. In the US, you might have multiple tests, multiple papers throughout the semester. While you're in the UK, including at Ulster, you might have 2 papers and a final exam, and that's going to make up your entire semester's grade. So keep that in mind when you're applying to our universities in the UK.
Great. Well, I do, like I said, want to have time to jump into some questions from our viewers. So we can jump right in. We have a couple questions for Carrie on the exchange placement. The first comes from a student asking about placement for fall 2015. Have students been notified of their placement? When can they expect to?
Okay, so we're finalizing placement. We know that we've filled all the exchange space in the UK because I've easily filled those numbers this round. They should be expecting to hear. We're hoping the goal is next week. So that's when we'll be contacting students about their placement.
Great. Great. And another question from Morgan, kind of more generally, what tips do you give to students who are applying for these exchanges?
Okay. I'm guessing that you're getting at, because they're so competitive, what can make an application stand out. What's really important is that you're a good academic fit for that university. So we get a lot of students who apply to sites where they can't actually get the classes that they need. Maybe there's a restriction on the subject, or maybe the subject can only be studied on the full year and not on a semester basis. So be sure to look at those directory pages for each university and really dig in to the academic section and make sure that you actually qualify for those sites that you're applying to. Other than that, we look at holistically at the application. So your academic reference is going to be important, and your personal statement is also going to be important as well.
Great, thanks. Another question from Morgan, and this one is actually for Nick. So Nick, are you still on the line with us? See, I think.
Can you hear me or no?
Yes, there you go. Now we can hear you. Thanks.
And can you? Yeah, I had to pull a fast one. My computer was dying, and I switched over to my phone. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad you can stay with us. Morgan is asking us about your experience with scheduling classes. How did that go for you when you were choosing classes and building your schedule?
Yeah, so it kind of resembled pretty similar to what I do at my home university in a lot of ways, where you just have to kind of research it. And I did that through the host Napier's own registrar and things like that. But it was, it was a little daunting at times, but I with the help of my home academic advisor and coordinating with essentially an academic advisor or my study abroad helper at Napier, it was super helpful. They were able to be very helpful to me, because I couldn't necessarily do it all on my own, so I did have to seek help, but the help was there. So otherwise, it pretty much it was similar to what I would imagine Morgan is doing currently at school. It was similar to what I do at University of Vermont, online, and you just pick them and sign up, kind of like that. If that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. We have one more question about Edinburgh specifically that I'll let Carrie start talking through this with, and Nick, you might chime in on your experience. But talk about the stipend. What is that like for students?
Okay. I don't think Nick will have much to say about this because he was one of our ISEP Direct students. So
right.
They don't pay, or they don't get a meal stipend. They'll use their own funding to pay for groceries and cook for themselves. But yeah, at Napier and at Ulster and at Roehampton, actually, all three, if you're an exchange student, you'll get a meal stipend because you'll pay your home university for essentially a meal plan. So a student taking your spot is getting a meal plan. But at our universities in the UK, including Napier, there's no real typical meal plan. It's not, you're not going to find the cafeterias and that you'll find here in the US. So instead, what they do is they give you a meal stipend, which you will largely use to buy groceries, and in your flat you'll have cooking facilities. So this is very typical of what a UK student will do, so you're kind of getting their experience. And those meal stipends are issued periodically throughout the semester.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, it looked like you were agreeing with what Carrie said. Did you have anything from your experience of?
Yeah, I spent my money mostly on groceries. Yeah, there wasn't necessarily dining halls or specified places to eat on campus, but I actually found that to be really great because I explored more of my own cooking and just kind of eating out in the city that I was in, which is cool, and you get to budget yourself. You kind of learn budgeting and stuff like that, which is stuff I was familiar with, but actually living it in a totally different country and stuff, it was really cool. And yeah, it was a great way to experience the actual food and not just feel like you're eating, maybe school food or this or that. But there were, we had a few options on campus just in case you were having a long day in the library or something. You didn't have to go home and cook. You could always grab a sandwich or something, but generally I cooked a lot of my own meals, and it was great for making like building community within the flat too. We cooked a lot communally and stuff like that. So that was, I thought it was great, actually.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. We have time for one more question. And this question is about our show today and the kind of logistics of it. These shows do stay online, so you can access them through our YouTube channel. If you search for ISEP Study Abroad on YouTube or link to it from our website, all of these ISEP Lives will be there. We have some great student videos on our YouTube channel also, and I'll actually tease to Nick's video. Nick created a video recently about his experience that's also found on our YouTube page along with some other great video content. So that's a great place to kind of check out our student experiences and what's going on there. But yeah, these ISEP Live shows are linked to there, or you can get to them on our website at www.isep.org/ISEPLive. And again, as soon as the show is done today, the recording will be accessible there. So you can share it with friends. You can go back and rewatch to get the specifics again. So yeah, definitely check them out there. And again, that is the last question we have time for today, unfortunately. But we do want to remind you to definitely utilize social media to ask us more questions as they come up. After today, if you have more questions about any of the programs we talked about, if you want to hear more about any of our other programs, our social media accounts are a great place to do that. Again, on Twitter, you can always use the hashtag ISEPLive, but we're also available on every other large social media channel at ISEP Study Abroad, so definitely find us there. Before we let you go today, we did want to give you an idea of what your steps from here might be. You've heard about all these exciting programs. Now it's time to start taking the steps to get there. The first step that you want to take is to start researching these programs. You've learned about them generally today, but it's time for you to spend some time to learn even more. The best place to do that is, again, on our website. We're at www.isep.org, or again, connecting with us through social media. That's a great place to get questions answered or to find out about more programs. Once you've done that, once you've started researching programs, it's time to meet with your ISEP coordinator. So your ISEP coordinator is a person on your home campus who is an expert in all things ISEP. This person will be able to help you with the researching of programs. Once you have a program picked out and you're ready to go, they'll be able to help you through the application process and walk you through what that looks like from your perspective as well. Once you've researched programs and met with your coordinator, it is time to apply. As Carrie mentioned, deadlines for a lot of these programs are coming up soon, so it's time to start thinking about this. The application process and some application tips can be found on our website at www.isep.org/apply. We want to thank you again for joining us today. I want to thank Carrie as well as Nick and Kara for joining us. We appreciate all of you sharing your experience. ISEP Live is a weekly show, so be sure to tune in next week as we talk about more of the people and places that make up the ISEP network. Thanks so much.